Hi, I'm Alyssa. I'm one of the co-organizers of today's meeting, and right now I want to talk a little bit about an initiative that the Student Association has been a part of in the last year that is looking to collate educational resources that are related to ecological forecasting. Before I jump into what we have been doing, I want to talk a little bit about the motivation behind this project. So year two of the Ecological Forecasting Initiative Research Coordination Network had an overarching goal to fill in gaps in educational resources to improve forecasting training for undergraduate and graduate students. This goal of the RCN inspired the Student Association to start a working group after their 2020 meeting to create educational resources related to ecological forecasting, spearheaded by early career researchers. So our working group was myself, Whitney, and Ben, and with help from Jody Peters. And we wanted to start creating these educational resources. However, when we started meeting and thinking through how we wanted to create educational resources and how we would go about picking topics to create resources for, we realized that before we could do so, we needed to understand what gaps we actually see in existing resources. And the main reason for this is that we didn't want to overlap with resources that already exist or duplicate efforts that have already occurred. So instead, the Student Association started an effort to collate educational resources, and this involved two main steps: finding the resources and then organizing them. So to find resources, we searched platforms like Google and YouTube, and then looked at instructors' lab websites when we knew that that instructor taught a course in quantitative ecology or ecological forecasting or a related discipline. And then we also leveraged the FE community, asking people to submit resources that they knew of or that they had created to our growing database. When we had some resources collated together, we started organizing these resources. And I want to walk through a couple different ways that we've organized resources to get you thinking about how your resource development ideas later in this meeting could fit into some of these categories. So first, and possibly most obviously, we organized resources by different levels. So from introductory resources that require little background knowledge in a given topic to advanced resources that are for people who have quite a bit of background in a given topic. We also organized resources by different formats, such as videos and course material or entire courses on a given topic. And we would encourage you to consider how your resource might fit into some of these formats and how your resources could address gaps in actually just the formats of the existing educational resources. And finally, we categorized each resource into one or more of 23 forecasting subtopics that I developed in collaboration with Mike Dietz, Quinn Thomas, and Jody Peters. And these subtopics basically encompass the different steps of the forecasting cycle, as well as topics like learning R and data visualization and engaging with stakeholders. All of those things are different topics that fall within the discipline of ecological forecasting. The purpose of the subtopics are twofold. First, and obviously, we wanted to provide a guide for students and instructors to find appropriate resources for their needs, but also, and perhaps more importantly for FE as a whole, the subtopics provide insight into what components of forecasting have insufficient resources and give us a guide for where resource development should be occurring. So the current status of this project is that we have over 150 resources available. These resources are available on the FE website, and Jody or myself will put a link in the chat right now to those resources. And the second thing that I've been working on is identifying gaps from this resource list. So the first way is a semi-quantitative way, which is to assess the absolute number of resources that are available in each subtopic, which you can do visually right now. Just scrolling through the list, you'll notice that some subtopics have substantially more resources than others, such as the Introduction to Ecology subtopic, possibly obviously has more resources than something like uncertainty propagation. The second way that I've considered where gaps exist is by working directly with students to understand whether the available resources in each of these subtopics addresses student learning objectives in that part of ecological forecasting. I've done this by working with Niavita Bueno Watts and student interns at Humboldt State University to understand where students are struggling with understanding parts of the forecasting curriculum based on the resources that are currently available. In the interest of time, I'm not going to get into that right now, but I would be happy to talk more about what I've learned from that process in the Q&A or after the meeting at any time. In the future, I'd like to continue resource collation, and I would really like if anybody knows of additional resources that I've missed or you have created resources that I'm unaware of, please reach out to me or submit them to the form that's at the top of the Google Doc that we've shared with you. The second thing that we are interested in EFI is understanding the distribution of resources across subtopics at different curriculum levels. So the first curriculum level that I've defined is these online resources that I've been talking about, but there are broader curriculum levels that we're interested in as well, such as the subtopics that are addressed in ecological forecasting courses and the subtopics that could be addressed in whole ecological forecasting degree programs. Again, I would be happy to talk about my plans for this in the future, but in the interest of time, I will conclude things here. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll look forward to any questions that you have in the Q&A.